Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of the 2021 F1 My Driver Career Moto. We're all having a great day. Today we go racing here in Sochi Autodrome for the Russian GP. Excited for this one. I felt like surprisingly this was the track that I've had the most fun actually getting around this season so far, which I can tell you right now definitely did not expect it going into this weekend. I've never really been a huge fan of this circuit. It's not a challenging circuit by any means, but I've never really been a fan of driving it. But I really enjoyed it in this episode, and I think you'll see that come across with our performance here and there throughout this GP. But of course, working on some R&D. Unfortunately, I am shocked. We are back to about to be the worst team on the grid as Williams is getting closer and closer to us. So that's a little bit concerning, and I believe they have some more upgrades on the way that you guys are going to have to watch out for here at the end of this episode, going into the next episode for my favorite race probably of the season to actually drive the Singapore GP. Now, as you see, Lewis Hamilton, he's won the last 3 GPs in the last 4. His worst finish is second, so he has been on fire here so far lately, and I don't see anything that's going to stop him from getting that 8th Drivers' World Championship, and Mercedes pretty much locking up the Constructors' Championship already, as Valtteri Bottas has been a great second place driver for that Mercedes team. Now, as we were looking at the weather forecast so for the weekend, it was looking like it was going to be a dry weekend. We did have 2 upgrades that were successful, so that helps us a little bit, but there you see, when we got to the race weekend, Williams had caught up to us with an upgrade right there. So we're going to be pretty much even on pace likely here with the Williams team. Obviously, they have a Mercedes engine. We have a Ferrari engine. It'll be interesting to see which one's going to outpower each other here at a track like Sochi. Hopes were high though. Now, obviously, last episode in the Italian GP, we had a really rough race. That was probably the worst one I felt like of the season, aside from the Spanish GP. So that was not an enjoyable one. I went into that GP expecting good things, and it turned out to be one of the worst experiences all season long. So we come through into free practice one. There's the Arava. Looks like he's actually the car mechanic or something there for Kimi Räikkönen as we get ready to do our practice program. So we started, of course, with the track acclimatization program, just to get used to the track that I've driven about 50 times in the past here, from spanning back to F1 2015, 16 or whatever now. So I realized very quick early on, even in the track acclimatization, when we're on the hard tires, I cannot stand the hard tire compound in any F1 game, but I was enjoying the track already, so that was really making me confident for this weekend. You see me losing some grip there towards the end of Sector 3 through that low speed section in the lower gears, and I was struggling throughout that section specifically quite a bit in this race, just with grip. I felt like I was actually competitive at every part of this circuit, which usually when we go to a circuit this season, there's always one part where I'm a little bit off, a little bit too far off, and that really hurts us, but I felt like I was on it everywhere here in Sochi. So we were now doing our race strategy program on the medium compound, and just once again getting really confident with this car. Felt like we were setting better laps every time, and we ended practice in a decent position, you could say. Of course, Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas up front, but we were in P19 ahead of Esteban Ocon. You see Schumacher in the 15th position there on the soft tire. He was about 0.8 of a second faster than myself, so and we were of course on a bit of a slower compound. So I was pretty confident after seeing the results there. Now, as we're going to jump into FP2 and just sim through these programs. But Sochi, a track that in the past, obviously, you guys never really seen me race here on YouTube. Of course, maybe in the F1 19 career mode you would have, because I did, one season on there, and I mean, I felt like we are always going to be a threat at this track, but we continue for some reason to fall down the order in R&D with just lacking, I guess, these upgrades in terms of speed. So I think what we're going to have to do is actually start to try and rush some of these upgrades, take some risks if we really want to get ourselves further up the ladder, especially towards the end of the season. We already know we're not coming back to Haas at the end of the season, but I still want to get this team as good as it can be so I can improve my resume even more before the season comes to a close at the Abu Dhabi GP. So that's kind of the goal there. We were on now the soft tire here in FP3, trying to set the best lap that I could, and we got around the track pretty speedy. It was a pretty competitive lap, it felt like, now as we went through ahead of Sebastian Vettel, to my surprise, right there. And by the time though we came to the end of FP3, we were at P17, about a tenth or so off of our teammate Mick Schumacher. So we definitely still have some work to do here in qualifying. So that was a little bit concerning, not gonna lie. After I saw that, I was like, okay, maybe I'm not as quick as I originally thought based off of FP1, but we come through into qualifying one here. What a, by the way, beautiful track this is. All the little, I guess you could say, landmarks from the Olympics back from, I don't even remember what year, maybe like 2016 or something like that. Maybe probably like 2014. I honestly don't remember what year it was. Let me know in the comments if you do. But we came through into Q1 to make our qualifying lap here, and it was likely going to be maybe a 17th, 18th place is what I was expecting here in the Russian GP. Now, Esteban Ocon, he came through to set the fastest lap so far early on in the session, but I just felt like I was hitting every apex pretty much as just about as good as I could, and I was very, very confident in this car. It didn't oversteer too much, and it definitely didn't understeer too much, so it just felt like it had a really good balance this weekend, and that's the first time we've really hit that. So we came through across the line. At the moment, it was P4. Obviously, everyone's still got to come through and set their own competitive and respective lap, but we actually were just a little bit faster than our teammate of Mick Schumacher, and it was a pretty close situation. We were right now in Q2, surprisingly, but we came through to set another time here late in the session, along with pretty much everybody else here, just to play it safe and see if we could advance into Q2 just on raw speed. I've never actually done that before. Anytime we've gotten into Q2, it's due to luck. So, or with weather, with rain and whatnot. So we've never just straight up gotten into Q2 on speed. On the same episode where we take a bit of a hit there with confidence in terms of R&D, as Williams have finally caught back up to us, we're going to back that up and come through out of the final turn, a couple tenths up on our time, and somehow advance into Q2 here for the qualifying session of the Russian GP. There you see 12th place, and then unfortunately Mick Schumacher actually does not advance, and it almost looks like we blew him out of the water, but we actually only had him by about 0.4 of a second. George Russell and Nicholas Latifi there at the very bottom of the grid. So I was surprised to be this far up the order here, and as I had mentioned so far this episode, I think the word of the episode, confidence, it was through the roof at this point here, and we came through. Now I only planned to set one lap in the session, and I waited until late in the session. I didn't care if I qualified 15th at this point. So it was really just about getting the car around the circuit in one piece, and we did exactly that, obviously. So down through the final turn, and actually we're going to come through and beat Kimi Räikkönen there, and we're going to qualify in the 14th position here for the Russian GP, and we really weren't far out of the top 10, about 3/10 out, so some work to do if we wanted to get there, but we do get Räikkönen by just below a tenth. So a good qualifying effort now is going to get ready to go here for the Russian GP as we send it off to David Croft.
Welcome along then to Sochi and the Russian Grand Prix, one of 8 cities in the world to play host to both the Olympics and a Formula One race. It's a Grand Prix that's proven difficult to crack for anyone beyond the first 2 rows of the grid in recent years, so let's see if that can change today. Built on the shores of the Black Sea, the Sochi Autodrome is a 3.6-mile tour around some of the venues built for the 2014 Winter Olympic Games. Close barriers may make overtakes more challenging, but with 56% of the lap taken absolutely flat out, we certainly won't be wanting for pure speed. A fitting arena then to do battle at the pinnacle of motorsport. And I'm joined once again by Anthony Davidson to bring you the lowdown for today's race. Let's have a chat about McLaren. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Norris, Verstappen, Charles Leclerc and Sainz, Perez, Vettel, Tsunoda and Lance Stroll. The rookie, Ricciardo, they've taken a grid penalty. Kimi Räikkönen and Giovinazzi. Latifi, Russell. Fernando Alonso, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Pierre Gasly. Mick Schumacher, they've taken a grid penalty. And Esteban Ocon rounds off the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
There you have the pre-show there from Croft as well as Davidson. Now as we look at the race strategy, so there was a couple options on the board right there. I decided to go with the soft tire. One thing I felt like I learned in this episode more than anything was fuel. So I have struggled a lot with determining how much fuel to put in the car. You're going to notice I still have the same struggle next episode, but I think starting after Singapore, you're going to notice that hopefully I kind of figure out what to do with the fuel load in the car, because I've been overfueling the cars, unfortunately, because I'm always afraid that I'm going to use more fuel and then have to use lean towards the end of the race and then lose a lot of pace in the car. But I've been overfueling the cars every episode, and finally I really caught on to that here and the effect that it has on your performance. So I think that after this episode and next episode in Singapore, we finally are going to have that down and not be making that mistake with the fuel load in the cars. We do get to the grid there from P11 due to some grid penalties now, as we got Daniel Ricciardo there in P12 just behind us now, as it is 5 red lights. Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas now off the grid as the lights are out there. You got Lando Norris there in the McLaren. In P3, you got the Red Bulls of Max Verstappen, Perez in the mix, as well as the 2 Ferraris of Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, and an AlphaTauri up there of Yuki Tsunoda now as they lead it off into turns 1. Lewis Hamilton was able to actually get the edge over Valtteri Bottas into the corner, but they're going to still be side by side out of turns 1 down through this long sweeping left-hander, kind of a carousel you could call it. There's Lando Norris, defends over the Red Bull, holds on to P3, still side by side between the 2 Mercedes drivers. How have they not crashed already at this point? Now, if this was 2016 Hamilton-Rosberg, they would have already been well off into the barrier and out of this race, and it would have been Lando Norris's race to lose at that point now, as they're still side by side here as we head down towards through the second sector just about now, as you got the Red Bull, Ferraris as well of Leclerc, Sainz putting on the pressure, ready to pounce if something happens between these 2 Mercedes drivers, a 7-time world champion versus a 0-time world champion who wants to get that first one and still has hopes to do so this season. Now as we go down this long back straightaway, this is the opportunity for either Mercedes to take the commanding lead in this GP on just the first and opening lap now. As you see, Leclerc attacking the Red Bull, still side by side between Hamilton and Bottas. Incredible racing here on this first and opening lap, but it's just a matter of time until one of them is going to get the spot. But who is it going to be? This could be a huge opportunity for Bottas right here, but it's not going to be him. It's going to be Lewis Hamilton coming through to take the lead here in the Russian GP, and now he is going to settle into that first position there, as you see everybody starting to settle in except for myself, who's got a bit of pressure right there from not Kimi Raikkonen, Antonio Giovinazzi, but we hold on, and we lost 1 spot on the start, and that was actually to Kimi Raikkonen. But other than that, we held our own, surprisingly. My starts haven't been pretty this season. I've seen some tips in the comments on how to get better at the starts, and I've been trying to apply those to my race starts, but I still haven't gotten any better. So I'm definitely got to work on that here in the future, because I feel like that really cost us, especially at the beginning of these races, obviously. So we came through to lap 3, DRS now enabled now, and we were starting to lose some contact here with Kimi Raikkonen, but fortunately we were still close enough. By the time DRS got enabled to actually have DRS, we were within that 1 second. So, unfortunately, though, we definitely just right here didn't seem to have the pace in the first 3, 4, 5 laps of this GP to really hang with these guys up in front of us. But nonetheless, running P12, I was still happy with that. And we actually fell out by over a second behind Raikkonen. But the 2 Ferraris actually got battling side by side. Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, they were going at it in front of us, and you can kind of see it right there. And that would actually bring us back to within that 1 second mark to get DRS here within the next straightaway. So I was happy that we were able to have that kind of lucky break right there. And now as we came through though to lap 8, the sun coming out at this point, clouds clearing out, but here comes Antonio Giovinazzi looking to my left hand side down towards turns 1. I actually decided to, you know what, Antonio, you can go. I know the Alfa Romeo at this point is a lot faster than our car, so I didn't really see a need to hold them up too much. Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren on the medium tire just behind myself here in that 14th position. Fernando Alonso in 15th, the 2-time world champion now, as Mick Schumacher, he was actually way behind. I don't know what was going on, but he was stuck behind one of the cars. I think it was actually a Williams, potentially of Latifi or Russell. I couldn't really tell at this point, but I ended up letting Ricciardo just drive right on by here down towards turns 1. He had so much more pace in that car now. So down into 14th we went, unfortunately. So falling down the order, of course, now as we came through to lap 11 already of this GP, and you see Ricciardo scrapping it out for a moment there with Antonio Giovinazzi. A little bit of a grip loss right there out of that left-hander, but fortunately we hold on to the car, we catch it in time before anything goes wrong. Now as there's a big pack of cars and I'm really losing grip, so I decided, you know what, the pit window was open. Jeff did recommend probably pitting this lap, so I decided, yep, we're coming in this lap because I was losing a lot of grip all of a sudden. So we come into the pit lane, and it's just unfortunately still a one-stop race, and we're going to be putting on the medium compound going right till the end of this Russian GP there. As you see Perez in the pit box as well. You got Lance Stroll, you got Carlos Sainz gets out just in front of us now, and Raikkonen here joining us on the pit lane as well. As we come in, put the tires on, and we had a pretty decent pit stop right there from the team. So keeping us right in the fight here. 2.8 seconds. It feels like every race we're getting just like a little bit quicker there with the stops. We were like 3.1 earlier in the season. Then we got down to 3.0 seconds. Then it was the 2.9 recently. And there we are clicking off a 2.8 second pit stop. So he came out behind Pierre Gasly. He started at the back of the grid as well with a grid penalty and whatnot. He actually had a rough start, which I'll show off a little bit later now as we come through to the end of lap 12. Mick Schumacher now coming into the pit lane now as there's a caution actually on the front straightaway, and it's for the Williams of George Russell now, who appears to have some type of mechanical failure. Now as they're side by side between the Latifi and Perez, in a big incident right there as Leclerc and Latifi are out of the GP. A huge impact now as they ran into the back of Russell. Safety car is out, Russell out of the session, Latifi out of the session, Charles Leclerc. Here's an immediate replay right here. You see Latifi right there just runs into the back of Russell. Russell actually turned left a little bit, but I think Latifi was still going to hit him, and he turned right into Russell when he turned left. So on board with Charles Leclerc, not much he could do about that situation right there. A big impact, a big incident as a safety car comes out here in Russia. So now that we have a moment to show or take a break, here's what happened with Pierre Gasly. So we knew, I had mentioned he started towards the back, but right here, he makes some contact there with George Russell and actually damaged his front wing. So that hurt his run down into turns 1 here. I think he was actually 3 wide into turns 1. Let's see if he made more contact. Maybe a little bit of contact right there, couldn't tell, but he actually had to pit at the end of lap 1 to fix the wing, so that he was way behind, and that was the reason why. So safety car out, and we had just made our pit stop now, so we were running in 14th place, and obviously we've been way more competitive than our teammate Mick Schumacher, than the Williams, who are both now out. So we come through to lap 15 now, and we resume racing, but there was one issue. I mentioned fuel, so we were like unbelievably over fueled when the safety car of course left. So as you guys know, when the safety car is out, the fuel just continues to build up onto that safety car. So now we were in a lot of trouble there. The car immediately, I could tell, wasn't as competitive as we were under pressure right there from Esteban Ocon down into turns 1. I went a little bit wide out of turns 1 and messed myself up even more on the exit now, and that puts the pressure on myself here. Ocon right on my back gearbox here as we go down into this right-hander, but I was able to defend pretty well over him from that point right there. So right up front though, as you guys expected, it's Lewis Hamilton leading the way, but it was actually Bottas not in second. He was in third for the time being, behind the McLaren driver of Lando Norris, who's really been a threat to Valtteri this season for that second spot, but Valtteri, I can confirm, would actually get back up into second within the next couple laps. So on lap 20 of 27 here in the GP, Lewis Hamilton out to a comfortable lead now, and I would love to have seen what the outcome would have been if Valtteri could have just held Lewis off on that opening start, but we are never going to know, of course, at this point. Vettel, by the way, running in 5th. A great GP so far for the German driver now, as you see side by side between Carlos Sainz as well as Vettel. I was speaking about Vettel being 5th. Well, he's down to 6th. We saw him scrapping it out with Carlos Sainz in the last episode in the Italian GP. Now, as you see, Daniel Ricciardo running in P13. He's had a rough day now, as he hasn't really been able to move his way forwards very well, as I'm still trying to hold off and attacking Esteban Ocon now, as he got 16th was Mick Schumacher. But now we cut through to lap 23 of this GP, and unfortunately we just had lost connection with the driver's head, and that's a mix of, in my opinion, both feel and of course their cars just being way faster than what I have. Just a little bit, in my opinion, too much feel in the car, and that was kind of hurting us, because earlier we were able to drive away from these drivers behind us, so I definitely knew the fuel situation wasn't helping us whatsoever now. So hopefully we can get on top of that, like I mentioned earlier at the start of this GP. So we were closing in though on the closing laps of this race now, as I was just trying to manage this gap to Ocon, and I had a strategy. I was using all of my ERS on the front straightaway, and I was actually able to hold him off down the back straightaway. So I was able to comfortably stay ahead. He had DRS on the front straightaway, but I used enough ERS to where he never was able to get close enough to attack. So now 2.5 laps to go or so, and we continue to lead the way down this back straightaway. This is the first time, though, that Ocon had finally gotten close enough to have a bit of a look there, but I covered him off well and didn't give him the opportunity to get alongside. So down the front straightaway, just 2 laps to go in this GP, and now we have a comfortable gap just below half a second over Esteban Ocon there, as I really was trying to save my ERS here on this lap to at least allow myself to just abuse it on that final lap. But here we are down this long back straightaway again. Ocon right to our gearbox, and he's going to make a move up the right hand side. We're going to be side by side with the Hungarian GP winner from real life there, but we hold him off right there. Thank goodness. Now is still the Mercedes duo out in front on this final lap of the GP of Lewis Hamilton as well as Valtteri Bottas now as we head down towards that penultimate turn. Now out of the final turn, final lap underway here in the Russian GP. You saw a little bit of oversteer out of the final turn. That definitely didn't give me the exit I was looking for, and now the doors are wide open for Esteban Ocon to put on some pressure. Now almost 2 seconds between myself and Schumacher, who's scrapping it out with Gasly. Now I would lunge up the right hand side from Ocon there, but we hold him off through turns 1. So that was one attack that we held off, and now we know he's going to be attacking down that long back straightaway, and even right here if he gets close enough, but he is not going to make that move, thank goodness. So we are safe for the time being until we get to that back straightaway. That's when I was just trying to set up to defend as much as I possibly could over Esteban there in the Alpine. He was doing a great job putting the pressure on here on this final lap, and I was driving my heart out at this point now. But it's Lewis Hamilton, by the way, coming through the final few turns, and he is going to go 4 consecutive wins here and win in the Russian GP. Bottas second. It's going to be Lando Norris in third over 4th place of Max Verstappen. But here we are down this long back straightaway for the final time. Full on ERS overtake mode, but here comes Ocon right here. He's going to look up the right hand side. I don't have much for him, but we're going to have to fight as hard as we can here down into the heavy braking zone, and we go a little bit wide, but we stay clear of Ocon. We go a little bit wide through the apex, but Ocon wasn't able to attack. He is right on our gearbox now. He's going to make a move up the left hand side, but it's not going to be enough now. Gasly, by the way, got past Schumacher for the 16th position, so Schumacher down to P17th, and here we are in P14 through the penultimate turn down into the final turn, and it is going to be a strong 14th place finish for us here in the Russian GP. What a battle right at the end between myself as well as the Alpine driver of Esteban Ocon now as Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, and Lando Norris, your top 3. Alonso gets driver of the day. A great job for him now as we have some post-race celebrations here.
A great race then, and a fantastic win here in Sochi. Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today. What set them apart from the rest?
Well, the safety car completely changed the race, didn't it? It's hard to say exactly what would have happened without it, but there's no question that they came out of that situation in a good position.
Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again.
There you saw the post-race celebrations. Lewis Hamilton on top of the podium. Bottas second. Lando Norris third. Max Verstappen still has yet to win a GP this season. What a rough season it has been for Ferrari now. So obviously Codemasters didn't hit the R&D correctly in this game so far now, as Red Bull should have been way closer and way more competitive than what they have been. It's been a rarity to even see Max Verstappen on the podium now. As you saw the point standings here, of course, still only 4 points for Haas, and that was our 4 points that we picked up in Azerbaijan. So, as always, if you guys enjoyed this episode, you know what to do. So we are going to be going into, in the next episode, the Singapore GP, and I've been talking about this one for a while. I love driving that track so much. We're in a Haas. We're not going to be competitive in Singapore by any means, but like I said, I'm just looking forward to that race to just drive the track. I love driving there, and I cannot wait for that episode here coming up in probably the next day or two. So we're going to try our best to get some more R&D going here, because we are starting to fall behind as Williams has caught back up to us as we had a nice gap to them throughout the majority of the kind of middle part of the season. So it's a little bit frustrating now, but obviously we're going to just have to work very hard to get back out in front of them and hopefully close that gap back to AlphaTauri, who's now the third worst team, and then Alfa Romeo, and then hopefully Alpine as well. And then, of course, Aston Martin and above Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull, and Mercedes. They're just too far out in front of us now. So look at that, by the way. We have more market value now than Mick Schumacher. We are 2.52 million, and he is at 2.5 million. But Lewis Hamilton on fire, and if he keeps it up, he is going to wrap up this title very soon. Valtteri Bottas is going to need to beat him for sure in the next coming races, especially starting at Singapore, if he wants to continue to fight for a championship. But I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching, and I would of course like to say thank you to the Going Racing members here on the channel of MJ, Joseph 9001, Timothy Arline, Bubba Jr., Brett Durward, Dark Gengar Gaming, AJ Vasura, Russell Dixon, Kenneth Barnett, Dania9302, Speed Demon 341, as well as Illinois Diecast. I appreciate you guys' support so much, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.